An estimated 100,000 to 300,000 infections of Lassa fever occur annually with approximately 5,000 deaths. Now, every single day that passes by leaves an ignorant individual at the risk of being exposed to this virus. So today on Health Talks, we shall be addressing this viral hemorrhagic illness and also look at possible preventive measures. So do well to stay with us. Welcome back. Now, educating us today on the Lassa fever is Mr. Ogaime Eragbai. Mr. Eragbai is an environmental health officer and his field focuses on preventive measures. Welcome, sir, and thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
You're welcome.
How are you doing generally?
Very fine. Very fine.
All right, so I think quickly let's address the issue on the ground. So I would love to begin with having you educate us on what Lassa fever is.
Okay. Lassa fever is a disease condition that affects man. And it is gotten from a rat, or you can as well call it mouse. And not all kind of mouse or rats carries this virus. The particular mouse that carries this virus is called multi-marmot rat. So it will be out of place for you to think that all rats carries this virus. But it's also good to be scared of all rats because none of these rats that reside with men have an economic value in our home. So it is better for us to just do away with rat of all kind. But the particular one that carries this virus is known as multi-marmot rat. And it affects man through its urine droplets. When man gets in contact with these, man becomes a carrier of the virus, and the virus at its well is not injurious or detrimental to the rat carrying the virus. Right. But when it leaves the virus, mean to say, and gets to man, it becomes a disease condition. The man begin to feel dizziness, headache. Gradual process is now developing into the very severe case whereby in a rare occasion one can hardly survive when you get to the real severe case. That severe case of the Lassa fever virus.
So looking at Lassa fever itself, did it actually originate from Nigeria, or it's a disease or a virus as it were that was already existing in some other countries and then it was, and with time it got to manifest in the country like we have the coronavirus and other
diseases? Okay. The name Lassa, in fact, they named Lassa after the place where it was first documented. Lassa fever. Lassa itself is the name of a place. Okay. I think a place in Borno, Nigeria. So to say it was first detected in Lassa, Borno, Nigeria. So it's named after its first place of.
Okay, first of all occurred. All right, so still looking at Lassa fever, you mentioned the rats. So we need to elaborate more on how it is actually contracted, that is, the virus itself.
Okay. The virus itself, ordinarily the rat does not stay at homes.
Okay.
If you observe the case of Lassa fever, it's mostly occurred during dry season. That's when you have the high index rate of Lassa fever. Not that in rainy season you don't have, but compared to, say, 100% of the total affected case in a year, you can have 85 cases in the dry season. That's to say, the rat lives its natural inhabitants, which is the bush, as a result of man burning the bush. So bush burning should try to stop or prevent Lassa fever. We should start from the bush burning. Prevent bush burning, prevent the rat carrying Lassa fever from coming to your house. Because burning your bush, it must find a way of surviving, the rat itself. So we begin to look for
other places to find shelter.
To find shelter. Like that is how it comes closer. This rat itself is quite different from the normal rat you see at home. It's different from the rat you see at home. So when it comes, if your environment is not properly sanitized, good for the rats.
Okay.
That's why we are advocating keep your environment clean. Keep your environment clean is the first way of preventing too many diseases, not just Lassa fever. As a rat is coming, for instance, from wherever it's coming from a completed building, from a bush, and it comes from wherever it comes from, and you see your environment, like some of us do dump our trash, our refuse, our litters. Say not everywhere at it where some of us at the rear of our premises, it is natural for those of us around the rural settlements. We use the rear of our premises as a way of
dump your
refuse. And such places are good for these rats to multiply. That's where they get there. They don't even bother of going to the bush again. They have a good place, more convenient environment, because man activities must produce waste. So the way you treat your waste will not depend if the environment will be conducive or less conducive for the rats to stay. So looking at all these measures are measures you put in place to checkmate the rats coming. After you look at your general environment, the way you arrange your properties.
Okay.
Like we all know, every ideal woman need a neat environment to stay, properly arranged environment to stay.
Yes.
In as much as it is good for man, it is not good for rat. Rat does not like a clean environment. Man does not like dirty environment. So rats like dirty environment. Man don't like dirty environment. But on rare occasion, you see woman being living in a dirty environment. Your drainage in front of your house is dirty. The side of your house, there are overgrowings. Behind your house is heap of refuse. That make the environment itself conducive for the rat to strive. And when it's feeding at your trash outside, your waste bin outside, during the daytime, you will not see them daytime. Even in the night, when they don't, every animal will want to strive for survival. When man is a threat to rats run from man. When you observe that there is man or any threat, you go into hiding. And this hiding can be inside your bedroom.
Okay.
So also, it is also good for us when you see any hole that could serve as a hiding place for rats in your premises. You don't need to even see rats. But once you observe an opening in your premises, inside your house, outside your house, the environment, please close such openings, because as it is coming, it can decide to hide in that rat. In the night, it look for a way, and it might not have an opportunity to come out from. If peradventure enter your house, you might not have an opportunity to come out to that is hiding before daybreak. So if you have a conducive place, if your premises is not properly arranged and it enters and you find a more better place to stay, better than the hole outside, it will just remain there. Okay, it's a process. As it enter, of course, you will be feeding with your foodstuff. Some of us have
You do destroy your clothes. I don't know if they
eat eggs.
Hygiene from eating clothes.
No, my sister. Except you just need to kill them by the different method which you can kill rats. But immediately they enter, they begin to feed, and every animal that feeds must either urinate, defecate. So during that process, they begin to drop this virus. And more often a time you observe that your gari, if it's not properly covered.
Because talking about this gari as it were, which is known as cassava flakes, generally maybe or in English as it were, most persons often think that when you just hear about Lassa fever, they are already relating it to cassava as it were. So I'm wondering, is it only like when these rats get into your homes, maybe or they get to your kitchen, is it only through that cassava flakes as it were? Because people need to understand these things. They forget that there are all other food items in the house, which includes maybe rice, there is beans, and then there are so many of them, but people tend to focus more on cassava flakes as it were. So I want us to clear it. Is it just through that particular food item?
No. it is common with that because most a time for those of us in this part of the world, you know, sometimes when you are coming from a busy work schedule, gari is a kind of fast food. It's a fast food. You just carry you soak. But rice, they feed on rice at it way, or beans, even granuts. But those ones still have to pass through process. The cooking of rice,
Yeah,
the heat of it tend to kill the virus.
Okay.
But that gari, you just see most times, even the granite of a thing, they eat granite. Okay. You see sometimes you carry granite without even, during the preparation process, you just put granite in your mouth. So by so doing, you take these things inside. No, apart from gari, the granite, you can be getting through airborne. It's dropped. Yes, my sister. Like you observe, if you even sweep your premises, you observe some particles flying.
Wow, I'm just hearing that for the first
My
time.
sister, you can contact LASSA virus through inhalation. As you sweep, different particles are in the air. As you inhale the virus. And so doing, it will incubate and therefore showing the signs and symptoms. So that's...
Wow, that's quite a revelation.
Yes, you can get it from...
So we know that the virus is transmitted from the rats to humans as it were. But what about looking at the angle of from man to man? Can the virus actually be transmitted from man to man?
Yes, that is why it is, when identified, when it is said that a man is carrying the virus, the man go into isolation. Okay. The reason for that isolation is to separate him from other persons, because as it is at that minute is harboring the virus, it's already a threat to people around him. If, for instance, Mr. A is having the virus, and Mr. B, even Mr. A lie down in a bed, and after he has risen from that bed, Mr. B lie in that bed, it is likely to contaminate it because it's a virus. Okay. And also through blood transfusion. It's a virus once it can get from the host now to the susceptible host, which is from the positive to the non-positive, if they have a close contact. Close contact can be any contact, so it can be even through sexual intercourse.
All right. Thank you so very much, sir.
You're welcome.
I'm certain that we are having quite an educative moment on the program so far. But right now we have to take a very short break, and when we return, remember you're still on to Health Talks. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Like I said before the break, you are on to Health Talks. On this program, we get to discuss health issues as it relates to your well-being. And today we are talking about the Lassa fever virus. And do not forget, I still have with me in the studio Mr. Eragbai, and he is doing so much justice to today's topic. So, back to the issue of the Lassa fever. We've looked at the origin of Lassa fever. We've looked at how it can be contracted, which you have made clear is from the rodent to man. Also, we've understood that it can also be transmitted from man to man. But now we are coming down to the signs and the symptoms of Lassa fever. So, how does an individual get to know if he or she has the Lassa fever virus?
Okay. The signs and symptoms is not far from that of, say, malaria, but to identify it, you must go through diagnostics, through laboratory tests. That you are used to the signs and symptoms of malaria. Say when you are having headache, you just assume it is malaria. You start treating for malaria, not knowing that you are carrying a virus different from the causes of malaria. It's good for you to go for tests to identify whatever you are treating, not just for Lassa fever at its way, for any kind of change in your normal physical or complete state of health. Once you are sick, you should know that you are sick. So don't assume it to be malaria or assume it to be LASSA or whatever kind of disease. The first thing you do, just go for tests. Though one will want to look at the cost involvement, but if you look at the adverse effects, you're treating malaria and you are carrying LASSA virus. And this LASSA virus, if not identified before a certain time, say between the range of while you are still incubating the virus, and it exceed that 21 days at it were to say 3 weeks is 21 days, say 4 weeks, you are still treating malaria, believing you are treating using agbo.
Okay, I think it would be much better if you even help us list out some of these symptoms.
Okay.
So for those watching, you understand.
Yes.
So you know when you start noticing some of these symptoms or these signs, we are not saying you have LASSA fever, but then you should know that do not just make assumptions and say maybe it's malaria or maybe it's fever. So just help us list out some of these signs and symptoms.
These signs and symptoms start from mild headache.
Okay.
You feel weakness. You feel you are weak. You feel, say, pains in your chest, in your back. All those are the let me use the word, the introduction aspect of the virus, the early stage of the virus. But when it becomes severe, it passes that, and you see blood coming out from your openings, your eyes, your nose, your ears, your openings. You just see blood coming out. So all these are the signs. But this blood signs is at, I say, 5 weeks thereabout. Okay. But that early stage, you get that headache, feverish condition, weakness, and those are the minor cases. And these signs are likened to that of malaria. When you have malaria, you have slight headache, you feel feverish. Yes. That's why you say, I just say, once you're feeling any kind of abnormalities in your complete state of health, just go for test. Yeah. It's not what if you are desperate about it, you cannot afford, say 1,500, you can go about whatever test you want to do to start treating for the particular sickness you are suffering from, than assuming treating for wrong and you are abhorring this thing to that severe state. It's not good. Let's just behave wise and forget the cost involvement.
All right, so the Lassa fever virus, it seems to have quite an effect on humans as it were, which leaves me wondering, I don't know, if somebody else watching might also have been wondering about this too. What effect exactly does the virus have on the rats itself? Or, I don't know, is it inbuilt, like is it natural in that species of rats?
I will want to say yes, it is peculiar with that species of rat, because it's not all species of rat. There are different types of rats, but this particular multi-marmot rat is the one carrying this virus. So I would say it's an inbuilt thing. It's with them.
So it has no effect
on them? No, it does not have any effects. It's likened to that of a snake. When a snake carries this venom that affects man, the snake itself, the venom does not affect the snake. So also the virus does not affect this rat. It lives with it conveniently. And you know, the rat does not have to go through text or medical checkups. So it does not have challenge, it don't have complications with it.
So sir, it is one thing for us to know about the existence of a virus out there, and then it is another for us to know how to prevent ourselves properly from contracting this virus. So we'd like you to tell us what the basic preventive measures are against Lassa fever.
Thank you very much. Say the basic preventive measures against Lassa fever. Let us begin from its own habitat. Okay. Say, ordinarily the multi-marmot rat stays in the bush. When man bomb bush, it tends to alter its inhabitat, then it itself find its way to habit with woman. And as it's coming from wherever it's coming from, it does not just land inside the house. It comes through the environment. Yeah. And if your environment is clean, sister, I'll tell you, the Lassa fever will pass through the rat carrying the virus will pass through your house to the other house whose compound is dirty. And if your compound is dirty, say you dump your
Refuse.
leftover food at its way behind your house, at the rear of your premises, and there are overgrown weeds where you can easily meander, where you can easily hide, it makes the place conducive for the rats to strive. So to prevent rats, prevent bush burning, number one. Two, make your environment unconducive for the rats. How do you make it unconducive? First, clear around your environment. Then your waste bin should be properly stored in a tight-fitting cover. It can be a drum, but let it as a cover. So after you dump your waste, you cover your waste. By so doing, you prevent rats from getting to the bin, you prevent flies from getting to the bin, and also the offensive odor coming out from your bin. So that you cover the bin, that alone prevents a level of the offensive odor that will be emanating.
Because it's like something that invites those rodents.
Is the rodent itself. It has a high sense of perception to perceive. This is its attraction. Once it perceives, it goes to that direction. So once you checkmate that your bin, you prevent him from coming close. So stopping bush burning, dispose of your refuse properly. Your environment should be environmentally friendly. When I say environmentally friendly to human, let it be void of overgrown weeds. Thereafter, inside your house, talking about rat eat well, this LASSA, this multi-mammoth rat, some of us out there cannot differentiate it from other kind of rats. So I would say there is no need for you to even know how to know the difference because there's no rat that I want to say
welcome to stay
is good to stay with man. No rat is good to stay. But if you find rats inside your house, say after your environment is clean, you have a tight-fitting cover to store your refuse, and there's still rats, which is possible for you to see have rats one way or another. Maybe you can transport rats. Rats can come through your vehicle. You can park your vehicle outside somewhere and rat enter inside, because I have seen rat inside the engine of my car.
Wow.
So you can as well bring rat, and at the tail end when the engine is cool, say night, it can just come down and enter into your premises. So say your environment is clean and you still find rat inside, make your room, your living room, your bedroom, make it unconducive for rats. But how do I mean? Arrange your belongings in the appropriate fittings. Put them where they need to be, so that at the run of a rat, you can easily spot it. And if you sight a rat, now there's rat in your house. There are different ways you can kill a rat. You can decide to tail the rat if your room, your bedroom is not too packed with junks. You can pursue. But if there are too many junks, it will just pass here and you don't know where he entered. Too many places. If your room is not properly arranged, like some of our grandmother, our mothers, old mothers, they have too many pots, too many chairs, too many, coolers unused. For 20 years, they have not even. So if the rat enters such a room, my sister, if you enter from this corner, it's already in that corner. So the process of you wanting to kill the rat, the process bringing one cooler, bringing one pot, bringing.
It's even disorganizing the whole environment.
You will be tired. So just make your room now, your living room, arrange it very well. Make it conducive for you and less conducive for the rodent. And that there is rat in your house, the way you kill rats is, you must kill rats to prevent, and be it that it may one way or another, you see rats, you must kill. The ways you kill rats, either by traps. You can use trap, you can fumigate.
Yes, that's true.
You can fumigate through the use of chemicals. You can even use the biological method, which is the use of introduction of cats. Because it is said both of them are likely to be their enemies.
Yes.
And so introduce rats. But the best way and costless is environmental sanitation. If your environment is clean, the rats will not be
Able
convenient to survive.
Yes.
It will be difficult for him. It's like as a man cannot stay in a dirty, in a dump site.
That's how the rat cannot stay in a clean environment.
That is
Okay.
that is.
I think
the
that's
big and
clear
small of
enough.
it.
Now we know the preventive measures to observe. But then what about when an individual already has this virus and then you are down with symptoms? Like, how does he or she get tested? You know, unlike the COVID-19 as it were, are there special centers where these tests are being conducted? Or you can just visit any health center, any hospital, and then you have the Lassa fever test?
Okay, my sister, the cases I've heard of is mostly in area specialist hospital around this. So I'll tell you, it's majorly in these teaching hospitals.
Okay.
You can easily get tests and get yourself treated.
All right. So now we are going to self-medication. I don't know. There are so many persons out there, aside Lassa fever as it were, maybe for other mild symptoms, you know, you are just feeling headache or you are feeling pain in the joints, and then the next thing, they don't even bother to complain to maybe physicians or anything. They just walk to the pharmacy and then they already prescribed for themselves. They're just saying, please, can I get Panadol or can I get Activec or one thing? So I don't know, what will you say are the dangers of self-medication when it comes to this Lassa fever and other diseases as it were?
Okay, Lassa fever as it were, I don't think the drugs, you can even get the drugs to buy in our patent medicine stores around. So you thinking you want to self-medicate for Lassa fever, and you are exposing yourself to the adverse effects of the virus, which will lead to blood coming out from your eyes. Because if you do not diagnose early,
Yeah.
thinking you by your self-medication you are treating, paracetamol or whatever drugs you call or you know,
Yes.
don't work on the virus. So I don't understand. You cannot self-medicate for Lassa virus except you go to a teaching hospital. If my sister, if the private hospitals around cannot even handle the case of Lassa virus, talk more of you medicating for yourself from patent medicine. That's to say you are drawing death or the adverse effects closer to yourself, which is not advisable.
All right. Thank you so very much, Doctor, for taking out time. Why would I call you? As in, what you've given us, the education you've given us here today is enough to call you a doctor.
Yes, and the same, our work, they call us doctors, environmental doctors.
Okay.
How do I call it now? In local language.
All right.
Especially, they call us Doctor Nokutogwe in Afema. That's doctors that looks your environment. That's how they call us. So if you call me a doctor, you're not out of place.
Thank you so very much,
welcome,
sir, for taking our time to be with us on the program. We really appreciate you. So we've heard for ourselves the #1 point of call is keeping your environment clean. When there are no rats, then also there would be no Lassa fever. Health is wealth, so endeavor to treat it as utmost priority. I am Comfort James, and this is it on Health Talks.